Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Prentice Hoagland, outgoing president of the Trent House Association. I welcome you to our 2022 annual meeting. It is with honor that I will share with you the strides Trent House Association has made to educate our community about the historic significance of the 1719 William Trent House Museum, as well as to recognize and pay homage to the people who lived and worked on the land and in the house. We are tasked not to radically change our thinking, but to incorporate new ways of thinking in order for us to evolve our organization. Change in and of itself could be sudden and may require or cause us to disregard the old for the new. But evolutionary thinking is incremental and paradigm expanding. It requires introspection, collaborative synergy, and being receptive to discovering what else there is and what more we can do. We have broadened and deepened our collective understanding, and our mission and vision reflect our new understanding and evolution. Thank you for joining us this evening to hear about and celebrate our good work. Our land acknowledgement. Built in 1719 by William Trent. The William Trent House sits on the ancestral lands of the Lenni Lenape people who lived in the territory called Lenape-Hoking for thousands of years. During the colonial era and early federal period, many were removed west and north, but some also remain in continuing historical tribal communities of the region. We acknowledge the Lenni Lenape as the original people of this land and their continuing relationship with their territory. Now our annual report. Congratulations, Trent House Association trustees. As a cohesive unit, we thrived in the midst of our generation's global pandemic to become the impactful and celebrated leader all of New Jersey is beginning to recognize and hold as an exemplar of historic inclusiveness, diversity, and equity. Adding to the stories of the glorified men of privilege who built, owned, occupied, and reaped the benefits from the house and property are the stories of their significant others and of the people who toiled as enslaved and indentured people, as well as those who were exiled from their ancestral home. From our archaeological excavations to the evolving topography of the remaining acreages of the Trent House and its surrounding neighborhoods, we are telling the stories of the lives impacted by expulsion, enslavement, immigration, migration, and the changing political landscape of what is now Trenton, New Jersey. We have been busy. Between June 6, 2001 to June 19, 2022, we hosted 16 events with 9 more events planned for this summer alone. Our immediate plans include filling the remaining 6 board seats, completing operating charters for all Trent House Association standing committees, and installing interpretive signs and donor legacy bricks on the grounds. Between 2021 and 2022, we were awarded grants totaling $158,263 from the New Jersey Historic Trust, New Jersey Council for the Humanities, New Jersey Historic Commission, New Jersey Cultural Trust, and Mercer County Cultural and Heritage Commission. These grants were used for consultation services for DEAI initiatives, field school and archaeological research, youth engagement in history through digital media, community history programs, technical assistance, and funding for initial work on the Great Migration Oral History Project, work with the Mercer County Community College Upward Bound High School students for video reenactments of enslaved people, Joan, Nanny, and Yaf, consultation planning for participation in the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States, development, design, and construction of 10 interpretive signs for the Trent House grounds, and consultation services for our annual plan development. We have made intentional moves over the past 12 months. We worked with a consultant to develop a strategic plan in 2020. As a result, we have identified and are implementing strategies to achieve our goals. We are increasing our board representation, inviting intelligent, community-oriented people to join our board of trustees. As a result, we have added 5 more trustees to our board. We are telling more inclusive stories about the history of the people who lived in the house and on the Trent House property. As a result, we are expanding our audiences. And our boldest move is orienting away from a working board scenario to a professionally staffed model. As a result, we hired an interim executive director to run the day-to-day operations of the house so that the board of trustees can focus on governance, development, and outreach. A consistent supporter, former board member, an immediate past chair of the Finance and Development Committee, immediate past co-chair of the Public Relations, Marketing, and Outreach Committee, immediate past member of the Executive and Program Committees, and generous donor and volunteer, Dr. Samuel Stevens, has accepted the role of Trent House Association Interim Executive Director. For several years, Sam has gone above and beyond the duties of trustee by putting in full-time hours to support the operations of the Trent House Museum. He has cultivated relationships and collaborations with museum and historic house professionals, higher education professors and administrators, City of Trenton officials, and New Jersey community members. He has sought out, researched, and written grant applications that have netted us thousands of dollars. We are confident that as our interim executive director, Sam will continue to grow our exposure and patronage. And talking about confidence in our future trajectory, we are delighted to welcome a new leadership team. President, Mr. Peter Maruka, Vice President, Mr. James People, our returning board secretary, Ms. Christine Sampson Clark, our new treasurer, Mr. Ronald Zielinski. Our executive team, along with the other 11 board members, including 5 new members who joined us this year, are some of the most talented, committed, loyal, and trustworthy stewards you could hope to have to preserve the legacy and property we know and love as the 1719 William Trent House Museum. Thank you, Pete, James, Christine, Ron, Carolyn, Anne, Sue, Deb, Patricia, Jocelyn, Damian, Jossie, Bruce, Michael, our new interim executive director, Sam, and researcher, docent, and administrator, Sean, for making my service as president of the Trent House Association a rewarding experience these last 2 years. It will be my pleasure to continue to support our mission, to share the authentic history of the house, property, and people with our communities, connecting the past with today and tomorrow, with a vision of pursuing truths to impact the future. Thank you for allowing me to serve, and thank you for these beautiful flowers. I so appreciate you. I now give you Trent House Association President, Mr. Peter Maruka.
Thank you so much, Princess. I've said it before, Your feet don't look big, but those shoes are going to be tough to fill. It's been an honor serving under you. You have helped us kick it to another level, and we're very excited to continue the trajectory on which you have set us. It's just been outstanding. I'm in awe of working with you and having to follow you. So I'll struggle through, and I wanted to welcome everybody to the meeting and announce our current trustees. Patricia Atkins, Ann Clemenson, Sue Fox, Princess Hoagland still on board. And by the way, presidents usually come back. So as president, Deb Roussel, Carolyn Stetson, and our newer board members who we're thrilled to have on board, Bruce Boyd, Michael Days, Jossie Edwards, Jocelyn Francis White, and Damian Malave. We're still looking for good folks. We have some seats to fill if people are interested, but as Princess alluded to earlier, we have a fantastically talented group of community-oriented individuals who are really going to help us continue to tell the story of our little house in a positive way. So thank you and welcome. I am leading off the committee reports in my former role as Building Grounds and Collections Committee Chair. My committee fellow members are Carolyn Stetson, Damian Malave, Deb, Farida Stokes, James People, Kevin Joy, Nina Maruka, my wonderful sister, Ron Zielinski. And our accomplishments this year, main accomplishments, we completed the site-wide preservation plan to guide our priority capital projects, the largest of which we've been chipping away at for, Deb, 15 years, 20 years. The replacement of the HVAC system, which is slowly moving ahead, is long overdue and will be a fantastic improvement for the health of the house and the collection and our visitors. We've coordinated with the city to repair the visitor center flat roof over the kitchen, to begin painting the visitor center interior, and we've initiated a project to design and install some fantastic interpretive signs around the grounds, which will highlight the long history of life on Trenton's original plantation and beyond into the 21st century. We're working with the city to provide matching funds for the grant to replace our HVAC system with green technology. We're upgrading the lighting in the museum with LED fixtures. We're replacing flooring in the meeting area, the visitor center, refurbishing the kitchen in the visitor center, and completing complete interior painting. All of these things are long overdue and are really going to enhance both the usage and the experience for the board and our visitors. We're finally installing the engraved bricks from donors on the pathways leading to the visitor center and from the visitor center to the museum, and we expect that to happen this fall. With that, I will turn it over to our Finance and Development Committee Chair, Ron Zielinski.
Hello, everyone. How are you tonight? Budget for the year. Our 2022 operating budget was a balanced budget of $61,259. 55% of our money, our funding came from individual donations. We had some general operating support grants, which we will have mentioned. We have corporate contributions and a small amount of fundraising. That is an area that we're going to need to do some work on and work on that. Our goal is to, long-term, our goal is to end up with some more paid staff so we can work on our programming and do our research on the past. Again, under expenses, just like all major organizations, the bulk of our budget is spent on staffing, 51%. We're spending a lot. Again, the main thing we want to do is programming and interpretation of the history and we spending 21% of our money on that. And then we've got our usual expenses, finance, insurance, outreach, and fundraising activities. So that's where our operating budget is. And fundraising, we have at this point, we have 163 current donors. At the end of 2020, we had 118, so we made some significant progress there. And at the end of 2021, our annual appeal raised $23,000. So that's where we are. That's the area where we've got to do some more work. And that's one of our projects for the next several years under finance and development.
We are ready for reporting on governance.
Thank you. My report really is one which was prepared by our chair, our immediate past president, Carolyn Stetson. And I'm going to go through this as expediently as I can. It represents the year in review that's encompassed by 2021 to 2022. We reorganized in 2021 with Carolyn Stetson as our chair. The committee members included myself, Pete Maruka, Christine Sampson Clark, and Princess Hoagland, serving as the ex officio member because she's president. Starting in June this month, the committee members are the same, but of course, Pete will be serving in the ex officio capacity, and Princess will be a full regular member. Once our new strategic plan was approved by our board, the governance committee began its work developing a dashboard to track our progress on the goals set forth in the strategic plan. We reviewed our bylaws and revised them to increase the number of trustees, as was mentioned by Princess, and bring the bylaws up to date with current best practices. And these revised bylaws were approved in May of last year. During the summer of 21, committee members assessed strengths and weaknesses of our board and determined the characteristics needed in new board members. We established procedures for selecting and recruiting new trustees, and in the winter of this year, recommended 5 outstanding candidates for selection to the board. In addition, the committee, with the help of consultant Jamie Sapak, developed an evaluation giving the trustees an opportunity to assess their own strengths and the strength of our board as a whole. We were pleased with the results, concluding that we have an active and engaged board of trustees for the most part, satisfied with their individual contributions to the progress of our organization. Our strategic plan, which was again adopted in 2020, the focus is clear for now: increase financial stability, as you just heard from Ron. The committee was able to complete all the tactics established on the dashboard by March of this year. And we are now working on developing onboarding procedures for new trustees and developing a facilities use policy and procedures. Our task for the future will include further revisions of the bylaws and reviewing and developing practices and procedures for the committees. The committee has worked very hard to put the Board of Trustees on a more professional footing so that the board overall can continue to increase our organizational effectiveness. Thank you.
I'm Deb Roussel. I'm the current co-chair of the Marketing, PR, and Outreach Committee. I serve in that capacity with my co-chair, Bruce Boyd, who is an incredible asset to this committee. He's one of our new board members, so we're really happy to have tapped into him to become co-chair of this committee. Also serving are Carolyn Stetson, Damian Malve, James Peoples, Jazzy Edwards, and of course, Peak as ex officio member. The outreach of our committee efforts are in large part assisted by, we could go to the next slide on data. This is kind of are assisted in large part by our administrator, Sean Carney, and our new director, interim director, Sam Stevens. So a lot of their efforts have gone into this, and we support those efforts and are constantly looking for ways to enhance our communication media efforts. You can see that we've been very successful over the past 12 months. We've reached 2,000 different Facebook accounts and received response to many of those posts. Our website over the last 12 months now has 20,000 views, with unique visitors a little over 9,000. So that's a very good number to see, and we hope to increase that number and increase the interest in our website and then the interest in our museum for both attendees and supporters alike. The average pages viewed per visitor too, so people really are clicking and looking at different aspects of our website, which underwent a revision in the last 2 years. And so we're really, really happy about that. The constant contact currently, we have 780 emails on list with an open rate of 45%. And considering all of the emails that we are inundated with in this social media and email form of communication, I think 45% is very good. I know I don't open 45% of my emails. In terms of visitors and tours, this is a long-standing aspect of the museum that has continued. However, it has been affected by COVID, and that continued to be affected somewhat in the last 12 months. Not everyone is comfortable going out and about. However, we still managed to have special tours that amounted to 94 visitors from different areas: the College of New Jersey Urban Education majors, the Amistad Commission Summer Institute teachers, and a senior group. We're very pleased that bicycle tour groups have put us on their stop bike tour. And so we have attracted 300 new people to the site and the grounds for that activity, which is really good in terms of expanding our outreach. K through 12 youth groups has always been a focus of the Trent House in terms of visitors and tours. 484 students visited our museum this year. That included students from the Freedoms Foundation, the Trenton 4-H, and the Eagle Scouts. And individual tours numbered 315. Again, that number we believe is being affected by folks not feeling comfortable going out with COVID. However, we are well on our way to being back to normal visitation. In terms of other programs and meetings that have utilized the Trent House, either by programs sponsored by us or by others, on the grounds, we had 210 visitors for our programs, which again, we did not have a full slate of programming up and running last summer and fall or this winter. We have gone to many virtual talks and presentations. We will continue that. I believe the programming committee is very happy with the attendance and the acceptance of the virtual talks. So I'm sure that practice will continue, and it seems to be a very good media for the purpose of talks. It's just been really effective. We got a really good response. So we're very proud of that, and we will do a mixed blend of in-person and virtual talks going forward. We've also had meetings with community members and groups numbering 85 and community service groups numbering 25. We've started entertaining, reaching out to different community groups to utilize our visitor center for some of their meetings, just to build relationships, to build partnerships, and to increase our reach and expand the number of folks in the Trenton communities and other nonprofit groups, and increase their awareness of the house and our mission and our services provided. In terms of going forward with our plans, we plan to continue coordinating and collaborating with other THA committees to identify specific communities, groups, and organizations for targeted outreach and/or partnerships. We plan to do that by having collaborating with other committees and bringing in specific groups, specific neighborhood groups, specific civic groups, and other organizations to our house for a special invited visit and tour. And we think we've done this in the past 5 to 10 years ago and found them to be very, very well received. And so we're going to start down that path again in collaboration with other THA committees. We're going to continue also to build and develop the brand for our little museum. And we want to present a consistent, professional, eye-catching design as we continue to market the museum, its mission, and its activities. And we want folks to see our logo and know immediately, oh, that's the William Trent House Museum. So we want to have a consistent presentation, and we're about to present our new logo design to the full board for approval. And so we're really happy about that. It's not a brand new logo design. It utilizes the cupola on the house. And so we've tapped that in other media outreaches and advertising for 75th anniversary and other business cards. And so it's kind of continuing a strategy we've used in the past, and we really want to hit it hard so that we have a really strong brand that we can utilize for the Trent House marketing. We'll also perhaps bring back gift shop activities and marketing materials using our logo. We also want to strategically support other committees with design development of informational communications and marketing materials. We're here as a support committee for all the other groups, and we want to assist them with getting their information, their activities, their message out to the broader communities. And so we're really happy to have that kind of collaboration with our working board. Thank you.
Christine was not able to join us, but she did record her report.
Welcome from the Trent House Association Program Committee. My name is Christine Simpson-Clark, and I am the committee chair. I'd like to introduce the current members of the Trent House Program Committee: Pat Atkins, Ann Clementson, Michael Days, Jossie Edwards, Susan Fox, Jocelyn Francis White, Princess Hoagland, Beverly Keith Kelly, Mary Ellen Cruz, Deb Roussel, Sam Stevens, our interim executive director, and myself, again, Christine Sampson-Clark, chair and board member. Programming and events are done by the Trent House Association in accordance and alignment with our mission statement, which is to share the authentic history of the house, property, and people with our communities, connecting the past with the day and tomorrow, and with our vision statement, pursuing truths to impact the future. What this means is that we tell the stories of the property, tell the stories of the house, and tell stories of the people. Examples of programming events from 2021-2022. We did a program on respect, signifying through song, where we honored Sarah Dash and other African-American women who use popular music to promote personal dignity and social equality. We did a program, Ties That Bind, Nanticoke and Lenape language and revitalization. It was a presentation that uplifted the revitalization of the language and traditional ways of the Lenape and Nanticoke people on whose land the Trent House now sits. We also did a program or an event, actually, celebrating the 240th anniversary of the March to Yorktown and the encampment of Washington's and Rochambeau's armies in training. It was a reenactment with reenactors demonstrating how soldiers in the Continental Army from 1781 under George Washington and America's French allies under General Rochambeau lived during the 680-mile march from New England to Yorktown, Virginia, and how they prepared for the decisive battle that ended the Revolutionary War. It was really exciting. You felt like you were there. I'd like to invite you to visit our website where you can learn about our programming. If you go to the events tab, you'll see a listing of our upcoming events and our past events. Looking at our past events, you'll see that we show a description of our past events. And you can see a little bit of what we've done in the past programming. You can see videos of all of the events that were housed through either a hybrid or totally on Zoom. So we have videos that you can find on our YouTube channel. You can go to see video of our upcoming, you can see information on upcoming events, and here's some examples. By the time you look at this, these are past events, but I just want to kind of show you where you can see and get information on whether our upcoming events are in person or virtual. And then with that, I'd just like to thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events and programming throughout our next year, and then see you again this time next year.
Thank you, Christine. Sean Carney is our researcher, administrator, and also docent. Sean.
Okay, for administration and museum management, I schedule tours and meetings. For example, we scheduled the Freedoms Foundation groups, which was over 400 children and teachers and chaperones. I work with the city to monitor conditions and resolve issues. For example, I call when there's something wrong with the HVAC system, when we need garbage removal, when we need mowing, things like that. And regular management of communications and correspondence. I send thank you letters to anybody who joins or donates. I process all the mail, and I check the 2 phone lines, messages, and email messages for 2 accounts. Next slide. So for research and program development, I transcribed the 1677 Stacy Deed. I working with community partners to film in the house. We did a video about Harriet Tubman, and I was the owner of a safe house on the Underground Railroad. That was very cool. And we also did 300, I think it's 300 or 400 years of African-American soldiers filming in the house. For developing and delivering youth programs, we did some craft projects with the Freedoms Foundation groups having to do with the Lenape, like corn grinding and making shell bracelets. And then I created exhibits, website content, and social media posts. And you'll see some of the things on the next slide. So this first poster is about a girl named Nanny. She was an enslaved girl that was owned by William Trent. And we think that she was a caretaker for young William Jr. and a maid to Mary Trent. And the second poster is an analysis of why Joan, the enslaved cook, was so highly valued, more than some of the adult men. And we think it's because she was a very skilled cook. And then the last poster that you see there is about Yaff's story. Yaff, Trent's enslaved butler, was sold to another man after Trent's death, and he ran from that other man. His name was James Alexander. And so this poster tells the story about how an ad was put in the paper to get Yaff back. And the ad tells us a lot about Yaff. And then the next exhibit is about the inhabitants of the house. Rather than just telling the story of the heads of household, i.e. the rich white men, we decided that we wanted to tell the story, obviously, of everybody that lived in the house. So we've got the families, children, wives, etc. in gray, and the servants and enslaved people here in yellow. And then website content. I did a PowerPoint on using runaway ads to research enslavement. It's about what we can learn from runaway ads about enslaved people. I did a PowerPoint on archaeology and Native American culture, what we can learn about Native Americans through archaeology. I did another PowerPoint on Mahlon Stacy and the Quaker colonists that came here from England. And I also did a PowerPoint exploring the possibility that Trent was poisoned in 1737. Or two men were put to death for supposedly poisoning Trent in 1737.
Oh, wow.
And then for Facebook posts and social media, I did a post about Nathan Beeks Russell, William Trent's great grandson. I did a post about the lives of the elder and the younger Mahlon Stacy. Mahlon Stacy, the elder, being one of the first settlers, English settlers in the area, and then the younger who sold the 800 acres to Trent. And then Lewis Morris, the first royal governor to live in the house. He lived in the house from 1742 to 46 during his time as royal governor appointed by King George II.
Thank you, Sean. This is Sam Stevens. I'm going to report briefly on some grants that actually Princess has mentioned quite a few of them. So I'll just give you a quick highlight, and then we will have a presentation about a particular grant that we're doing that we're very excited about. So as Princess mentioned, we have received grants from many state level organizations. The Council for the Humanities is a private organization. The Cultural Trust, the Historic Trust, the Historical Commission, and the Mercer County Culture and Heritage Commission are all public entities. And we've also received generous funding over a number of years from the New Jersey Manufacturers, or NJM Insurance Group, and they have supported our archaeological work. Our Council for the Humanities work has really helped us explore colonial slavery and to begin to think about how to engage young people in history through digital media. Our Cultural Trust grants have helped us have support from Jamie Sapo, our consultant, both for our strategic planning, and now as we're working on putting that strategic plan into action. We've had support from the Historic Trust for the interpretive sign project that you've heard about, and we are hoping will award a major grant to us for the replacement of the HVAC system in the museum. The Historical Commission has given us some small grants, but we are now one of their inaugural grantees for planning around diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. We're excited about that. And the Cultural and Heritage Commission of Mercer County, which distributes funds from the Historical Commission to local organizations, has supported us with general operating support. I'm going to turn this over right now to Jocelyn Francis White, who is going to tell us a little bit about the Great Migration Oral History Project. It's a wonderful collaboration and one that's being funded by the New Jersey Council for the Humanities. Jocelyn?
Good evening. As Sam just indicated, my name is Jocelyn Francis White, and I am ecstatic to discuss the William Trent House Great Migration Oral History Project. First, I must preface my presentation by indicating that the African Americans have a history, a glorious history that predates American enslavement. Yes, we were here before 1619. Scientists have also documented the existence of the first human remains on the continent of Africa in the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, East Africa, over 1.9 million years ago. This pertinent information is often ignored. The Great Migration occurred between 1915 and 1970. Approximately 6 million African Americans relocated from the South to urban centers in the Northeast, the Midwest, and the West. There was truly no sanctuary cities, though, during the Great Migration. No matter where you traveled as an African American, there was imminent danger lurking in the shadows or even in the daylight hours. It is imperative that I mention the sheer determination and courage of these migrants. This was not an easy decision to leave their families and friends for the unknown. Some of the reasons for the migration: people were seeking better economic opportunities, seeking better housing and improved education. They also sought to escape the terror of the KKK, Jim Crow laws, lynching, and there were over 3,500 lynchings between 1862 and 1968. The new locations were perceived as the land of milk and honey and opportunity and intelligence. But it often turned out to be a land of barrenness and bitterness and adversity and ignorance. Of course, now we are witnessing a reversal of the Great Migration, as many African Americans are relocating back to their Southern roots. Many people are going back to North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, and going to the big metropolitan cities like Atlanta, Raleigh, Durham, and Charleston. Now, why the Trent House? The William Trent House Museum may seem to be an unlikely institution to embark on a Great Migration project. The museum currently seeks to present a window on the full history of Trenton, from thousands of years before European colonization until today. It is imperative that the stories of people who have been traditionally excluded from US history be captured. What do we want to accomplish? It is our vision to document the achievements as well as the challenges of those who settled in Trenton. We also strive to engage the community, especially our young people, in learning and preserving this history. We want to ensure that future generations have access to this information. Sam, would you go to the slide, please? Okay, we had 2 focus groups and we held them at the Trent House. It was in person, and we had approximately 16 participants, and they represented all the networks in our local community. So we thought it was important that we understand and preserve history that is not taught, and it's definitely not taught in depth. Now, one of our participants said that when she visited the Trent House, her grandson wanted to know who did the work. Where were the Africans or African Americans? So from that, it was imperative that we get our own house in order. Make sure that the Trent House is taking steps, which the Trent House is doing, to research and present everyone's story connected with Trenton. Next slide, please, Sam. So some of the activities that we pursue under the direction of our wonderful person, Dr. Patricia Atkins. We interviewed individuals and family members who were Great Migration migrants to the Trenton area. We conducted research on places, events, and other topics that were mentioned in the interviews, and we're in the process of archiving interviews and materials online. We are so happy to say that we are partnering with the College of New Jersey through the Department of History under Dr. Robert McGreevy. And also we have a partnership with the Bonner Scholar Program under the direction of Miss Althea Muse. Next slide, please.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, that's it for the slides, okay. Currently, I mentioned about the reverse migration, so I won't say that again. And I want to say that I would be remiss if I did not thank Patricia Atkins for inviting me to serve on this endeavor. It has been a phenomenal experience, and I look forward to what the future will reveal. We're just so excited about it. And one thing though, we did notice that there were a lot of people that migrated from particular areas, especially from Dillon, South Carolina. So we're just really excited about the whole process. We look forward to conducting additional interviews. We have many lined up for the future, and we look forward to continuing our partnership and collaboration with the College of New Jersey, with the students, with Professor McGreevy, and with the Bonner Scholars with Miss Althea Muse. So I want to thank the Trent House for allowing me the privilege to serve as an integral part of this committee. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I'm going to mention just a couple of other quick points about collaborations. As Jocelyn mentioned, we are excited about our collaboration with the College of New Jersey, but we also have some collaborations with other historical and cultural institutions. The Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route, we are on that National Heritage Trail, and we are going to do our second commemoration of the encampment of the Washington and Rochambeau's armies in Trenton, which happened in the end of August, early September in 1781. We're going to be commemorating that again this summer, August 27th, all day on the Trent House grounds with partnership with the City Museum at Ellerslie, with the Lawrence Historical Society, and with the Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Association of New Jersey. Some of you may also know that the Trent House was a co-founder and current partner with the Sankofa Collaborative. This collaborative has, over the last 5 years, it's hard to believe this past January, it was 5 years since our first workshop on African American history. We have been blessed to have support from the Council for the Humanities and the Historical Commission, but also in-kind support from the Grounds for Sculpture, who have let us use their facilities for many of the in-person workshops. Our partners in that effort are the 1804 consultants, headed up by Dr. Linda Caldwell Epps, Grounds for Sculpture, as I mentioned, the Stoutsburg-Sauerland African American Museum, particularly Beverly Mills and Elaine Buck, and the New Jersey Historical Society. I'm going to turn
Sam, may I add, please forgive me,
Yes.
I forgot to mention Dr. Linda Caldwell Epps, because she also was very integral in our project. She conducted 2 seminars with some of the students from the College of New Jersey to talk about how to research and find out more about the past. So we are grateful that she also was a participant in our project.
Yes, we are very grateful to her for her many ways in which she has been supporting us. Thank you for mentioning that, Jocelyn.
You're welcome.
Ron, I'm going to turn it over to you for the financial report.
We're involved, like I said, we're trying to be involved in many collaborative things. Again, we are acting as agents for some of the new partners we're developing, one of which is the Sankova group. We're doing all their banking and paying their bills and whatnot, and we're working on that. We've got our operating money, of around $20,000. We have money that we've raised for potential items for the add to the collection of 36,000. We're required to have a reserve fund of around 35,000. We run a gift shop, and obviously we are keeping up with all the social stuff, and we are receiving funds through PayPal. We also have an investment account for the future of 376,000 to potentially fund new startup programs and to help with existing programs of our organization. So that's where our cash position is. Our operating cash again is around $105,000. We do have some operating restrictions when we accept grants that we're not showing here, but we need to segregate the accounting for the grant funds. So we also have that. So it's getting complicated. It's not like it's a one horse show. The more grants we have, the more complicated the accounting gets. And the more partnerships and collaborations that we develop, we can help by guiding them and giving them a place to start their finances. So that's where we are at this point.
Thank you, Ron. And Pete, back to you.
Jocelyn, thank you for your chat. That was inspirational. That is very exciting stuff. And I hope we can all follow along with it as things grow and progress. On a sad note, I wanted to mention the passing of B. Scala Fischler, who was a longtime volunteer supporter and trustee at the Trent House. Wonderful woman. She did great things for our organization. Her family is in our hearts and thoughts. She was just fantastic and around for a long, long time. So we wish her family peace. In closing, I'd like to share my vision of the future about our little house. Our museum will offer diverse and inclusive programs that give visitors and our community a welcoming and exciting experience. Our board is filled with engaged trustees, bringing perspectives, skills, and relationships to further our mission. Our funding supports robust operations, including full-time staff. Our buildings and grounds are well maintained. The house is beautifully lit outside, so it is a beacon at night when one drives through Trenton or over the bridge. Our collections are well maintained, well documented, well displayed, and well cared for. And someday we'll have a new, well-equipped visitor center that'll be constructed to help us tell the stories we continue to discover and share about our past and our future. So thank you all. It's great hearing from anyone. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Sam, do I need a motion to adjourn?
Actually, I would like to say one thing to remind people, as Deb pointed out, to go to our website and make sure you check on upcoming events. I mentioned the Washington Rochambeau encampment, which will be at the end of August, but in just a week or so, on July 9th, we will have a talk by Iris de Rode. Iris is a Dutch scholar who recently received her doctorate from the University of Paris. And she has studied and written about the Marquis de Châteauroux, someone I had never heard of, but he was a compatriot of Rochambeau and Lafayette. He came over to assist the Continental Army, to assist Washington. And in doing so, he collected a lot of information about previous campaigns. So in particular, he did oral histories and documentation research on the Battle of Trenton. She will be discussing what she found in his private papers that she uncovered in the Chateau de Châteauroux. And I think it will be very exciting. It will be at 2 o'clock on Saturday, July 9th. Will both be in person and virtual. You can find out that information on our website under upcoming events and others that are coming up. So I just wanted to put a plug in for our upcoming events.
Thanks, Sam. Patricia, you had your hand raised?
Yes. I just wanted to say that perhaps people noticed that Jocelyn is a new board member, but the fact is that I reconnected with Jocelyn about 5 years ago. Princess can speak to this. Princess had a committee made up of individuals from the city and some from surrounding or adjacent communities. And that's where I reconnected with Jocelyn. She was not a board member, and all of that work that she talked about that she participated in was done as a volunteer. And of course, the minute we had a space on the board, we were absolutely required to get somebody who'd worked that hard without being a trustee to come aboard. And I just would like to say that I would encourage all of us to think about the people with whom we have connections, that everybody is not interested in becoming a board member, but from time to time you have people who are interested in supporting a particular endeavor or getting involved in a particular project, and Jocelyn is proof of that. Right, Princess?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Nina too. Nina too. I just want to
Yeah.
throw
Oh,
that out there.
yes. Yes. I've encountered her numerous times at the house with her mother as well.
All right, anyone else? Yes, Jamie Sapo.
I'm just a fly on the wall, but I am so inspired by the work that is being done by this board. You continue to impress and amaze me, and I am excited about what is ahead for the Trent House. Just bravo, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. We're looking for board members, Jamie.
Let me get through the work first.
Nina?
I have a quick question for Jocelyn. The people who were emigrating from, was it Gill, South Carolina? Where you said a particular area?
It was Dylan.
Dylan.
Yes.
I wonder if they were potters, because Trenton was such a hub of potteries. I think there were 39 at one point going on, and that kind of skill and artisanal, they would have been very welcome in Trenton if they had anything to do with pottery. I just wondered.
There were farmers, sharecroppers so far. We haven't encountered anybody that had that particular skill set.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that some of the industries that were well established in Trenton, like the pottery industry and even the Roebling wire rope industry, tended not to want to hire African Americans. Now this changed in World War II when we had a labor shortage, essentially. And in fact, we also see women now being hired in these industrial plants as men were going off to war. So there's a lot of interesting stories behind the people who came here as migrants from the South and people who came here as European immigrants as well.
I am the grandson of a slave from Blacksburg, South Carolina. There's actually a plantation that was named the People's Plantation. We know where it is. It's just outside of Columbia, South Carolina. I can show you the last will and testament of the Reverend Darling Peoples, who was the father of Slaves Unknown. And I can tell you where my last name comes from to pinpoint it.
Wow.
Mm.
I can show you his will. It's available. You can look up the Reverend Darling Peoples. He was a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. He was the first pastor of a Baptist church in Blacksburg. Get it? Blacksburg, South Carolina, but it's Barnwell County, Blacksburg, somewhere just outside of Columbia.
Well, we need to put you on our list.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem.
And it's interesting that such a large segment of our African-American population is from South Carolina. I would ask Michael to speak up. He did not come directly from South Carolina to Trenton, but he came by way of Philadelphia, but still emanating from South Carolina, and his family and my family came from the same area, the Sea Islands, who are known as, on the one hand, the Gullah, and on the other hand, as the Geechee. You want to speak to that, Michael?
Well, we were Geechee until it got really scholarly, then it became Gullah. I mean, there were so few white people there because of the disease. They would come and sort of collect the cash, whatever, the crops. But the islands were pretty isolated until white folks discovered that they could put golf courts there. But so many folks I think in this region came from South Carolina, and I think part of it may be that family came and another family came, and that's just the way it rolled. I mean, people knew people, and they came in to be with people they knew.
Geechee Gullah people, that would be an interesting conversation.
Excellent. Well, good stuff, everyone. I'm sure we will continue these dialogues. They're fascinating. It's so neat to hear and to see, as to echo what Jamie said, what a positive trajectory in which we are heading. So I want to thank you all. I want to encourage us to keep all this great dialoguing moving ahead, and we will see you all soon. And as I think Deb and Sam said, and others, keep an eye on the website. It's the best way to see what's going on. And I encourage you to get friends, colleagues, relatives, anyone you know involved. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Sam, do we need an official motion?
I don't think so. This counts as a program, not a board meeting.
All right. Well, have a wonderful evening, everyone.
All right.
Take care. Thank
So
you.
long, everybody.
Thanks.